Well, I'd like to welcome everybody to our April Oregon City Business Alliance Forum. I see a lot of new faces here. We are truly excited to have such a great turnout for a topic that is so important to so many businesses and industry, not only in our local community, but our entire region. And it's interesting because we started working on this panel and this subject about 3 months ago. And so over that period of time, I've had a lot of opportunities to just look through periodicals, watch news programs on how challenging and difficult it is to find skilled craftspeople that can actually match up well with the jobs that are in demand today. My particular industry is in land development and housing. And during the Great Recession, we lost about 2 million people that were in that skill, in that trade. Either they just got out of the industry completely or they retired and didn't come back. So right now we're trying to figure out, well, how do we fill that void? And there's a lot of programs at the Home Builders Association that's helping with that. Clackamas Community College and Lisa Davidson is going to be sharing a little later today an upcoming program that they're doing at the Convention Center on technical and business and industry training. And they've got a whole bunch of programs going on. But I'm excited to hear what our panel has to say, a very distinguished panel that has a lot of diversified background. My name is Kent Ziegler. I'm president of the Oregon City Business Alliance, and I want to welcome each and every one of you here. But with that being said, I'd like to introduce our moderator for today, Bridgette Daisy. She's the executive director for the Clackamas Workforce Partnership, and she'll be actually talking with the panelists. And you've got question cards on your table. So as you listen to their answers or their presentations, please go ahead. If you have a question, write it down, and we'll have people from my board that'll go around and pick those up, and we'll hand them over to you, and then present them to our panelists. So again, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, Kent. I have 3 microphones here, so this is really exciting. I clearly have a lot to say. So again, thank you so much for joining us today. Oregon City Business Alliance, North Clackamas Chamber, Oregon City Chamber, and Clackamas County Business Alliance, thank you for helping spread the word for this amazing event or conversation. So again, my name is Bridgette Daisy, Executive Director of Clackamas Workforce Partnership. And I'm looking forward to our next hour together. If you're on social media, so are we. So while we're having this conversation today, feel free to be tweeting or adding it on Facebook or sharing a quote or something that one of our panelist members say, because it is all about helping spread the word about the important work of the initiative that we're going to talk about and of workforce development. So what can we expect today? I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Columbia-Willamette Workforce Collaborative, or what brings the conversation of the state of the workforce to today's topic. And then we are going to, we're going to talk about some data. That's going to be a very quick piece of the portion of this conversation, because, we could spend all day talking about the data, and what we're really here for is the discussion that our community leaders, I think, can provide. So we'll get to the panel as quickly as we can, and then we're going to open it to some question and answer portion for the audience to ask our panel members questions. And then I'm going to leave us with about 5 minutes, because I want to talk about how to engage with this initiative and the conversations moving forward. So without further ado, the Columbia-Willamette Workforce Collaborative. There are 9 workforce development boards that serve around the state of Oregon. We happen to be in this collaborative with Work Systems and Workforce Southwest Washington because we share a labor shed. There's a lot of folks commuting in and out of their communities. In fact, in Milwaukee, 95% of Milwaukee residents commute outside of Milwaukee for work. So it makes sense for us to think about things not from a jurisdictional point of view, but from a regional point of view. We also publish the State of the Workforce Report in addition to several other reports, which are all available on our website. I am the leader of your Workforce Development Board. We need change. We need significant change. We need to have this cross our communities and jurisdictions, and change that is grounded in public-private partnerships. So I appreciate the audience today because we have 4 school districts that are represented, one of our community colleges, and several business partners. So I really, really appreciate the leadership that's in this room, and I think that only together can we really meet the needs of the future of work. My portion, again, I want to be condensed because I want to get to that panel pretty quickly. And so I have condensed each of these slides into quick sound bites. If anyone has any questions about the data that I showcase, I'm happy to share the PowerPoint. And it's also, again, available on our website in the State of the Workforce Report. So please check that out if you are interested in some of this data, because I'll be going pretty quick. So let's get started. Our population is growing. We are at near full employment. We have record low unemployment. 3.9%, just heard that. Our county's labor force is participating around 65%. But the labor force participation rate is shrinking for many reasons. People's skills do not match what businesses are looking for. Job opportunities are growing. Low-wage jobs, which are most at risk of automation, are still the bulk of what's available. We know jobs are being and will continue to be created. Question is, what will they be and what skills will be necessary for people to compete for them? We have an aging workforce. In Clackamas County, we have 59,000 youth. We want all of them to have access to opportunity and support. And yet many of them are not continuing on or completing critical education and training programs. In fact, across the Portland metro area, we have over 29,000 opportunity youth, those aged 16 to 24 not engaged in work or school. And that number is a little over 3,000 in Clackamas alone. We need inclusive workplaces because the younger we look, the more diverse we become. Everything is increasing faster than incomes. Rents have increased 50% compared to the under 20% of incomes. A demand for public assistance is on the rise. 30% of food stamp recipients or SNAP recipients are working full-time. Services provided by the workforce development system, which includes education, economic development, business, nonprofit partners, and government, can remove systemic barriers to employment and training and are an increasingly popular and effective strategy to reduce poverty. The workforce development system tackles the challenges holding people back. Education and training is a piece of this and must be supported with other services for other aspects of life. Because if someone is faced with living paycheck to paycheck, or reskilling and not knowing how to cover their expenses, many choose to stick with what they know. And that's exactly what we have to get in front of. We need long-term commitments to begin our course correction. None of our proposed strategies are silver bullets, but combined, they are a full arsenal of what we know is around the bend. For a community to prosper, concentrated efforts must be made to align workforce supply with industry demand. Working together and bridging gaps between disciplines, resources, and jurisdiction strengthen the efforts of these intertwined cornerstones. This is what keeps me up at night. All of this. For all of the reasons I mentioned before and what's to come. If you're not worried, you should be. If you haven't been thinking about this, please start. We cannot afford to wait for our state or federal partners to figure this out for us. We create our own solutions locally. I want to show a quick trailer before I bring our panel up. This was just recently shared on HBO. It's a Vice News special. I encourage everyone to watch it. We're not going to watch the full hour, but this captures the conversation beautifully.
Technological change is disruptive.
Artificial intelligence,
Robotics,
automation,
whole businesses are changing.
retail, fast food.
Driverless vehicles.
You guys are truck drivers. How do you feel about it?
I'm scared. I deliver your food that you're eating, and it's a good feeling as a human being. What would I do if I didn't drive? I really don't know what I would do.
These technologies that are coming along will displace millions of workers around the world,
Which
would have a dramatic societal impact.
at the same time, technologies are creating new jobs.
how do you think automation will evolve?
Machines are tools. If we have more powerful tools, we have more power to change the world.
No matter what your occupation in the future, you're going to have an interaction with tech. There really should be some action legislators are taking.
What worries me is by the time we get around to dealing with this, it's going to be too late.
So let's not wait till it's too late. Let's welcome our panel up to the stage. We have Peter Lund, with the Chief Operating Officer with Super Genius, also a Clackamas Workforce Partnership Board member. Marcus Gores, Vice President of Operations for Gores Construction. Larry Didway, Superintendent of Oregon City School District, and also a CWP board member. And Tim Cook, President of Clackamas Community College. Thank you all so much for joining us today. This is a pretty good group up here, I must say. I'm very excited. So what we're going to do, I have a few questions for each of our panelists, and then again, we're going to open this up to for a conversation. So if you have questions, certainly write them down or ask them as we get to that portion. And then I'm sure that we do have, again, we have a few other school districts in the room, so if they also have things to add, feel free to use that portion to speak up. All right, Peter, from your perspective, being connected to economic development and workforce development, technology and creative spaces, what is on our horizon for disruptions in our workspaces and how work is done on a more local and regional level?
So automation is coming. Check out this Vice special if you have the time. Automation's already here too. If we think about where automation is going next, we're moving past the basic automated skills that we've seen roll through the manufacturing industry in the last several decades. Artificial intelligence and neural networks is going to allow us to automate new types of jobs. Now, we're first going to see this sort of thing in manufacturing, and particularly advanced manufacturing. But I think where it gets interesting are the types of jobs that you don't necessarily think of as prone to automation. Bridgette mentioned that automated jobs, or people in low-paying jobs, are more likely to be automated. That's true, but it also works in the inverse. Jobs that are likely to be automated will notice a decrease in wages. And we're going to start seeing that in industries like real estate, tax preparation, accountancy, medical billing, multiple other jobs that we would have considered to be more professional, white-collar, four-year college jobs. If you have repetitive data entry, simple analysis that you do as part of your job, a lot of that is going to be increasingly automated over the next couple of years. There's a fascinating study that was done by Oxford in 2013 that actually has an index of different types of jobs and how prone they are to automation. I don't know whether there's new data that's out at this point, but if you get a chance, go and look at that list of jobs, how likely they are to be automated. You're going to be really surprised by this. So what does this mean for us right now? What does it mean for the local economy? I think the key thing is what we're doing right now, which is having conversations about this. Industry is going to be our bellwether for which parts of their work are going to be automated first, and then education needs to respond to those changes by providing the new skill sets that workers are going to need to succeed in the next couple of decades in the workforce. There is certainly going to be significant disruption. I was down in Silicon Valley a couple of months ago listening to the AI team from NVIDIA. They're invested heavily in this. And their entire pitch was to executives at Fortune 500 companies who are also worried about their jobs being automated. These are the last people who you would expect to be concerned about automation, but because they're so close to technology, they know it's coming, and so they are ahead of the game. And what the NVIDIA team was telling them is that up to 50% of the jobs in the current workforce will be able to be automated within the next couple of decades. Their guess was 2030. We don't know whether that's the case. 50%, significant disruption to the economy. And the second thing that they were advising these folks who are already in pretty safe jobs is get close to your AI teams. Learn to make the AI better. Become essential to the computers. This is rather interesting to think about, but I think it's also instructive in that we can think about how our type of work might be a little bit more symbiotic when it comes to the interactions between automation and what we do, and I'll kind of let the conversation go from there. Thanks, Bridgette.
Thank you, Peter. Larry, this next question is for you. Taking into account automation, new technologies, changing demographics, and growing need for talent, tell us how school policy and planning is evolving to meet the challenges of the new world of work.
Yeah. Thank you, Bridgette. Well, it sounds like first we need to get close to the computer. But actually, I think the short answer is that we have to reimagine teaching and learning completely. And every school system in our nation is unique, but we all are connected and share the same aspiration, and that is to provide learning experiences that are going to prepare our students for an effective life as a lifelong learner and as citizens and as contributors. And being a good citizen is also being a part of the economic ecosystem in the world of work. So our schools really can't escape the contemporary pace of change that we are witnessing here, and we are certainly a part of the impact of that. We're living in a context of a real unknowable future, and it's really unique to our generation right now. It doesn't really describe the previous 3 generations. And when you think about that, it's really hard for us to imagine, how do we prepare people for a job that doesn't even exist and we're not even sure what it will be? Well, that really changes the way we educate people. And the role of teacher and learner really has to evolve and respond to this issue. I think it's important for policymakers and educators alike to, and like myself, to acknowledge that we're preparing students for something that doesn't exist. And the worst thing we could do is to keep doing the same thing or preparing kids for what does exist, because it's more than likely to be gone in their adulthood. And we have to identify the skills and mindsets that transcend what we know today. Now, more than ever, the learning experience has to not only provide for a rigorous academic content mastery, but it also, how to read, write, and compute, but it also has to intentionally foster what we call soft skills. And critical thinking, communication, collaboration, creativity, and other 21st century world skills that people need to thrive in a real complex and quickly changing world. We're on the threshold of a new beginning about that, and I think we're reimagining education to be more purposeful and empowering our students as creators and as makers. We have to believe in every kid and having their own creative genius, and I think we have to develop more partnerships. Education has to look outside of its own box, and it's our collective responsibility to work together to answer the call. And we know that students today can learn faster than they can be taught, and we're working to create a learning environment that doesn't put a ceiling on their learning. We have to work with our community and industry leaders in order to provide a more rich and experiential learning experience and an environment where we collaborate and harness the expertise of others.
Thank you, Larry. we're going back. Tim, this question's for you. How is Clackamas Community College responding to our changing community and economy?
Yeah, so I want to go back to what Larry just said. So we're preparing workers for jobs that don't exist yet, and I think our challenge is at the same time we have to prepare workers for jobs that do exist. Some of the do exist right now. So some of the data that you put up about our unemployment rates and the fact that people right now are our welding students don't finish the program because they're getting hired before they ever do is a great problem to have. But we need to make sure that as we're planning for the future that we still continue to educate today. We've got thanks to citizens of this community, we've got a wonderful industrial technology center that we just opened this last year. And if you go into that, the very first thing you'll see are manual lathes and drill presses and machines that have been around for 100 years. Because we still need to teach students basics and fundamentals. At the same time, right next to those manual machines are state-of-the-art industrial CNC machines and a really wonderful maker space where we're trying out new technologies, robotic welding, and we're working on AI, we're working on automation as we prepare students for those skills as well. And so that part of that kind of mix as we go along and we change to try to prepare what's coming for us in the future, we have to think about. Same thing for our new science building that will open up this next year. You can build a biology lab and a chemistry lab, but how do you really prepare for automation in healthcare and make sure that students understand the basics of chemistry, but are also preparing for this next level of what's going to happen in the hospitals and in healthcare and changing those ways. So we, and I think we do a pretty good job of this. And I will give a shout out to Lisa and Ronnie is here as well from Workforce that we're responding to workers' needs right now while we plan and while we change for our curriculum for the future. So it's part facilities and programs, it's part modality, and you were talking about this as well. So we know that not all of us learn at the same rate, and yet we still are working in some ways in a system that's been around for a couple hundred years, called seat time, that we expect everyone to sit down and learn at the same rate, and it's simply not the case anymore. So as we change and as the nation changes, looks at competency-based education and says, if I can learn this faster than Larry can learn it, then why should I have to sit and wait? Sorry, yeah. You surely could. Larry's much faster than I am, but why are we both sitting in that same place? So so we know that our fastest area of education is online education right now. That's our fastest growing. That's true across the country. We also know that the sweet spot with that is that you have some sort of face-to-face learning with that online education. So, as we design our curriculum and our courses, we're trying to figure out ways, how can we, put this information up in a way that's compelling and people that can learn any time of the day or night, but also figure out where we need to have places in the evenings, weekends, wherever that students can learn, face-to-face on some of this work too. So we have to be responsive to that as well. And yeah, I can't say enough about partnerships. I could probably do a whole other talk about partnerships. In order for us to be effective in this community, we have to partner well with our K-12 partners and make sure that we've got all of that set to go so that there's clear pathways for students coming up through the K-12 system. And we have to partner from the very beginning with our business partners to make sure our curriculum is relevant and make sure that our students are having real applied learning while they're still in school so that it can make sense to them and that they're ready to go and hit the ground running as soon as they finish up.
Not one of us does all of the things, right? So we need a whole host of solutions and entities to really engage.
Correct.
Yeah, excellent. And you also started answering my second question, or my next question, which was to both you and Larry, which is great. What does community partnership and engagement mean to a school district and community college?
Well, just like you said, Bridgette, let's start with the fact that none of us can do it alone. And no one in this room. It's only together that we can face this challenge. And I think for school systems, we have to engage our communities first in a conversation about, to really help shape and reimagine what learning looks like in a school setting. And we have to have partners in order to do that. We all have to be vulnerable with each other and admit that we're creating something new that doesn't already exist, and that we're going to make mistakes, and it's going to be messy. And I think for our own future and for our kids' sake, we have to invite the world of work inside our schools, inside the K-14. I'll call it the K-14 bubble. And I'm thinking now of a school that we visited with the team recently in San Diego, where I got to talk with some students that were really piloting and demonstrating the kind of partnership, the kind of depth of learning that can occur. This group of kids was not, they were not in a regular history class. Instead, they were in a class where they were asked to come up with a project where they were going to make a difference. They worked with the Innocence Project, which identifies individuals who have been convicted of a murder and that they're on death row. And that organization has a backlog of cases, too many cases for their pro bono attorneys to actually evaluate. So these kids actually received the real files of these people and went through and studied the statutes and all of the legal process and did a complete case review, and think of all the things they had to learn about in order to adequately evaluate each and every one of those files. And then they had to present that work to a group of peers, of attorneys representing the Innocence Project, and defend their decision to recommend or not recommend that this case be taken on by the Innocence Project. That kind of real authentic intellectual challenge and opportunity for students' accomplishment to collaborate and publicly share their product is the kind of thing that we can get only through partnerships. We've just recently piloted something similar in Oregon City with a group of kids, middle school kids, who designed and went through the design process for a middle school, their ideal school. And then they presented that to a peer of architect judges. And in all those cases, the joy of learning and teaching that you see in those places and in those spaces is really invigorating, and I think is an exciting opportunity, and the kind of thing where we see how partnerships can come to a fruition that has a completely different meaning for what we talk about as traditional teaching and learning.
So I throw this stat out a lot because I think it surprises people, but 20% of the FTE at Clackamas Community College is made up of high school students. And so when Larry mentions K-14, it's really true. You know, this idea that, you know, education stops at 12 and then starts up again at 13, 14. There's just, those lines are quite blurry now, and I think in really good ways. So we gave out a little over $3 million last year or saved high school students a little over $3 million in college credit last year. And you know, the money's nice, of course, but what we also know through research is that those students that are taking college credit while they're in high school are far more likely to graduate high school and far more likely to graduate from college. So it's a really good investment in our community to do that. And of course, at Clackamas Community College, you know, we're thinking, well, maybe they'll come here, they'll continue on to work. So it's a good investment for us too. So, you know, those are great. I think we can do a lot better though, and really be a lot more deliberate about what those partnerships look like. And there's a real equity issue there too. You know, students that are at Oregon City High School, it's a lot easier to walk across a parking lot and take classes. Students that are closer to our Harmony campus or at Clackamas, it's a lot easier than it is for students from Estacada or Canby. So we try to do whatever we can to offer those opportunities and those partnerships across our district so that everyone has access to this. It's another one of the challenges we work at, but it's critical that we continue to really look at those partnerships and do what we can. The clear data in next 10 years, 65% of all jobs will require at least some college. And there's some college there. Is it a year? Is it 2 years? How do we really help high school students understand what all the opportunities there are for them? And so exposing them as early as possible is really critical too, I think, for our workforce. The other piece I would add on the other end of that, our partnerships with business are critical for us to have resources, for our students to have jobs, for our curriculum to be current. As I said, I like to throw out this example too. We have a partnership with a national manufacturing company called Gossiger, and if you don't know about this, they sell high-end CNC machines, and they don't have a showroom here anywhere local at all, and so they made a deal with us in our new building that they showcase their $400,000, $500,000 CNC machines, and they allow our students to train on those machines. And so when they sell a machine, they replace it with a brand new machine. And the great part for our students going through that is they're often hiring our students at the same time because guess what? They know how to operate that machine. So it's this really wonderful partnership, and we try to really duplicate that wherever we can, because then we've got essentially job-ready students that are coming out as well. So it behooves us to be as responsive as we can in anywhere, and we partner all over the place wherever we can.
And I love that you're talking about K-14, and so I'm just going to throw out there, how about P-14? Really talk about that early learning where we can, help to foster the inquiry and STEAM and STEM related skills at really early ages. So thank you very much.
And we do that as well on that other end, but it's harder to make them work. They're a little young for the work age. So.
Yeah, people get nervous when workforce comes into the early learning space and it's like, okay, let's talk about workforce development. All right, Marcus, tell us about your experience and why you find yourself drawn to this conversation and having taken action.
I met Bridgette 364 days ago. And I met her, I was at a Home Builders Association conference, and I was listening to Bridgette speak about we need to help out in the conversation and the topic of where's our workforce? How can we obtain more employees? How can we retain and keep them for long periods of time? And that stuck with me. I gave her a card at the end of her talking, and we rolled from there. But what that stems, or what that grows into today is I worked with some of her team on providing students from Oregon City and Canby High School job opportunities last year. So I busted down those doors with Brian, trying to figure out, hey, who wants to come learn about construction? Who wants to come put tool bags on and work for the summer and get paid more than minimum wage and take that money home at the end of the summer with a learning experience and hopefully come back and be a long-term employee or find out which direction they want to go within the construction industry. So where I fit into this is I'm signed up to be a partner. I'm not just signed up, I'm handing out applications to other partners, people that need to be partners, people that do need workforce and don't know where to find it. It's in our future, it's in our youth. So if you can't find employees or retain employees, we need to be investing in the folks in school and that relationship so you can have long-term employees. Who am I going to employ in 20 years? Those kids are still in first and second grade and so on. So we need to really work together. And how this has come to me is, I always struggle for employees. I offer 384 guys work year-round, 40 hours a week, and I still need more people. So to me, where else can I go? I've tried Craigslist, I've tried Indeed, I've tried all these places, and I've spent a lot of money doing that, and I don't retain those employees. So I want to go into the schools and partner with almost every single school district I can to offer children and students a learning opportunity, job shadowing. I've taken it a little step further. I've sent out an application, and I believe I've been accepted to be on Saban Schellenberg's construction curriculum committee. So I'll be working with those students and giving them job shadowing opportunities and showing them this is what you can do. Here's other options. If you want to go into specialty trades, I can pass you along. I can be your stepping stone. Whether you want to be with me and grow a career or with anyone else, we just need to give these students an opportunity. And I think a lot of the business owners here understand the labor crisis, and I think a lot of them can speak as strongly as I am and want to partner with school districts and however we can make that connection, and whoever that person is per school district or per school or whatever it boils down to, however we organize this, we need that connection because it's hard. And I've experienced it with Brian Fuentes. It's hard to get into schools. It's hard to tell them, hey, let me borrow your kid for the summer and give them a bunch of power tools. It's hard to work with the Bureau of Labor and Industry and tell them, I'm going to give miners power tools. I'm going to let them cut. I'm going to let them use nail guns. I'm going to let them frame and be on roofs and be on scaffolding. And we worked it out. And we have a template. We just need the relationships. We need the connections.
Thank you so much. Before I turn this over to the audience for questions, I'm going to ask each of you the same question. We have a room full of business and community leaders. What is your message to this audience? We'll start with you, Marcus.
Can I just first off, who's a business owner representing a business? Raise a hand. And down. And school representation? Please go shake each other's hands. Please say hello. That's the biggest thing. We're all in one room, and we need to continue to work together. We've started the steps, right? We're all here. We're talking about it. Now, how do we make it a thing? How do we turn an idea and have it grow into fruition? How do we blossom this flower? So my one thing I would tell to you, everyone in this room is the communication. It's who you're sitting around, who you could have met today that you didn't introduce yourself to, or pass a business card to, or get an email from to make that connection. It's not just about your communication that could be hindering students in their workforce. So it's up to us to have this conversation and make these acquaintances and be a part of these students' futures. So it's up to us, guys.
Well, I couldn't say it any better, Marcus. Meeting up and really partnering wherever we can, I think is really important. The more that I've been at Clackamas now for about 9 months, and I've used this phrase, we're the best kept secret around. And every time people come onto campus and really see what we have to offer, I hear this over and over again, I had no idea that all of this was here. And we've got a wonderful staff, and we are open for business, and we want to connect with you all as much as we can to make sure that we're meeting your needs. We've got a whole array of opportunities and programs, and we are a community college. We support this community, so it's in our mission that we are connected with business. And so any opportunity that we can to connect with you, whether you're a business owner or in the school district, that we want to look at that. So you talk to me, you talk to some of our staff that are here today, but I would agree with Marcus exactly. The more conversations we can have, the stronger our community.
So I guess I would echo again, Marcus. Marcus has demonstrated incredible perseverance, and I think that's in the face of what we know to be multiple barriers. And those multiple barriers, though, can be overcome if we work together. And I would just encourage each of you to think about the whole spectrum of opportunity that we have in front of us. We need, as K-12 anyway, we need thought partners, we need project partners, we need internship hosts, we need professional juries, we need guest speakers, we need team instructors. There are lots of ways that you can connect with and be a part of the work that we do. And we all share the same thing, and that is a future. And the future is embodied by the youth that we serve.
Yeah, this question has been covered extremely well. Well done. One corollary to Marcus's point is that companies at every size can find a place to engage. You might not be able to invest in a large apprenticeship program. You might find that your skilled workers are simply too busy to take in a class of people and foster them at this point. That's okay. You have to make a decision that is practical for your business. There are other ways for you to engage. And that comes back to what you were saying, Larry, is go out, find a place to at least tell people, tell educators what your industry needs. You as an individual can make a very large impact, and that impact is going to grow as your company grows with you. And the more you're out there in the community, the more you'll know about the resources that you can bring in when the time is right so that you can roll out something like Marcus has done.
Excellent. Let's give this panel a round of applause. And don't go anywhere, because we have a whole lot of questions here. So let's start. Why are third graders who are not reading at third grade level passed on to fourth grade? I understand the probability of them graduating from high school is very low.
So there's a lot of research on social promotion and the damage that is done to a kid who is not promoted to the fourth grade. I think the bigger question is what's being done about the fact that they have not mastered a certain level of literacy. Just as has been mentioned earlier here today, that we all learn at different rates and we all learn at different times. And I think it's not, while the data would say that if you are not reading proficiently by the end of third grade, that doesn't mean we should be giving up on you at that point, nor should we be putting you in a situation where we also know that you are going to struggle. And we know that socially that there's going to be a severe consequence for doing that.
Peter, some manufacturers are backing away from technology, Tesla, Mitsubishi, the trend or bubble. Do you have any comments about the...
Can you expand on that? Because Tesla and Mitsubishi are technology companies and I don't understand.
So,
Yes.
yeah, the question is, both of them have made public statements they're backing away from automation.
Yes.
And is that a trend, or is that just a unique situation for a couple of companies that made announcements the last few months?
There are a couple things here. First off, automation and what you can do with neural networks and AI is still being established. And so I think there were some early concepts for how much AI would roll into the economy and when that did not come to fruition, which are probably a good thing. So I think if I can translate what they're saying, I don't think they're saying that they're pulling back from AI. I think they're reassessing how they're going to implement AI, where it's going to be most useful, and not focusing on these very large blue sky concepts that a lot of people were talking about 5 years ago that aren't quite ready for prime time yet.
How do you work with high school students to prepare them for continuing education like the Aspire program? How do you work with high school students to prepare themselves for continuing education?
Is that for me?
I think Aspire, would be Larry, yes.
So I'm not sure I exactly understand the question. Could you say it one more time?
Yes, you asked the question.
How do we work to prepare them for a program?
Tom set this up a couple years ago at University High School. It's the Aspire program. It's something that is together. And what it amounts to,
you're asking about, yeah.
I mean, I've been working there for a couple of years, just the two, but kids will come in, seniors, and they don't know where they're going. They don't know what they need to do to get into college. So that's what
So I think that, so the question is, what are we doing to connect kids to their next step in life, right? So, and Aspire is a good example of that. But I think one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about recently is just connecting kids with their own passion and what makes them tick. And I think our system currently does not necessarily do that for every child. Doesn't give them the exposure to the opportunities that are out there. And again, this is another place where partnership really plays a role for kids to see the wide variety of life experiences that they can have and that they can choose, and to connect with the place or that thing that really sparks joy in them. And that's something I think our system needs to work on and become a lot better at. There are some programs in place that help with that, but we're not there yet for sure.
And I would just add on to that, because Aspire is a good example, but there are a lot of other ones as well. And we get the students that we get, and that come forward us. My joke right now is, you don't have to pay big sums of money to come to Clackamas Community College. You don't have to buy your way in like you do some of the elite colleges. We have an open door institution, and we're happy to take everyone. We've switched our philosophy. Used to say we need to do what we can to make sure students are ready for college. Now we say we need to make sure the college is ready for students, and that means going out into middle school and into high school, and doing what we can to partner and expose as many students as possible to what is possible, but at the same time really provide supports and help, so that they have an opportunity to succeed while they're there. So I think it's a great another example of where those lines get more and more blurry as you go down the road.
Mm-hmm. I can add on that. Yeah. It's even to an employer standpoint, I'll pay you to come learn because I could use the workforce and not. College might not be a path for everyone. Continuous education may be in a trade, like at Clackamas Community, or directly into a journeyman program or apprentice program to journeyman to working on construction sites or being an electrician or in other places. I can't speak on every industry, but I can tell you that I teach all my new guys, we put them through weeks of training and continuous education to learn our ways and safety and other things, and you get paid for it. So.
I'm going to piggyback on that response and just ask, how can we get middle school students more intrigued in building, plumbing, electrical skills?
Construction is not sexy. It's not, but it's lucrative in the sense that I know a lot of guys who work with their hands that make good money and support their families. I know a lot of women who are electricians and plumbers, and they are lead income in their household. So I think understanding what makes them tick is the most important. Not everyone's meant to work construction or with their hands. Some are meant to speak or work with children and plenty of other things. But specifically in the industry, building classes. I got it introduced to me because it's in my family, it's in my blood. But if it's not, there's building classes. There's certain things like Legos were a hit. They still are. Those simple things, the connects, the things like that, the putting them together, now even to the engineering standpoint and making them work with electricity and running and automation, 3D printing, stuff like that. There's many ways that you can give these children an opportunity to figure out, I really like doing this, when they're not trying to figure that out during their senior year.
Yeah. These are such good questions. I don't know if we're going to be able to get through all of them. Oh my goodness. Okay, so do the employers of today need to expect that the workforce of the future no longer learn or practice old-fashioned skills such as resume, cover letters, showing up for scheduled interviews, and communicating verbally or in writing versus texting? And I don't know who wants to take that on. It's a loaded question.
Can I take on the loaded question?
Yeah, go for it.
Yes and no. So there are things that are changing. You spoke about two things that I think are probably slowly going to go away. The resume and the cover letter are rapidly becoming outmoded. There are places where it's still absolutely essential, and I think it's a very good skill for people to have, to know how to do that thing, just like I want my kids to have good table manners. But you know what? They don't necessarily need it to hold down a job. They need it to hold down specific types of jobs. At our work, we look for a good LinkedIn profile. That covers the resume. It shows us what a person is interested in, their work experience. It often has more information. We can dig in and see specific examples of how they work. It's better than a resume for us. We don't care about a cover letter very much. We care about a portfolio that showcases how this person can work. And then in our world, and again, we're in tech and employ a lot of artists, so we're on the a side of the spectrum that is very distinct. We need people to be responsible for their work product, meaning if there is a deadline, you must produce the thing and give it to us by that deadline at a high level of quality, the quality that we'd expect. And if there is a thing that you need to do at a certain time, we expect you to be at that meeting. Otherwise, we don't really care how you spend your time or how you get your work done. Because of this, we have folks that are very late night workers. They come in the afternoon. They work until the wee hours of the morning. That's fine, as long as they're delivering what we need from them. We've got early birds as well. We tend to get the most out of our workforce when we allow them to be the best people they can be to produce their work. At the same time, you spoke about soft skills and how you talk to people and how you communicate and eye contact. These things are still essential, absolutely essential. The one thing that we look for in job interviews beyond, can you do the work, is, are you an a-hole? We do not censor the word mostly, but that's it. We try to get a good read on whether this person can work with us on our team and be good to other people in a basic kindergarten ethics sense. So I think those types of skills are still essential. The way that we deliver the information that proves that we have the skills is going to change, and so it's up to everyone in this new world to be as adaptable as possible. You as a business owner, you want to be adaptable. You want your employees to be adaptable, and you've got to meet somewhere in the middle that fits your particular business use case.
Hashtag don't be an a-hole.
I want to see the assessment for that.
Is there a gap in our training for a path forward to fill leadership or management positions as the baby boomers exit the workforce? Whoever wants to tackle this. Is there a gap in our training for a path forward to fill leadership and management positions as baby boomers exit the workforce?
I'll grab that one as an employer. Yes and no. There's a huge gap in age difference between my oldest employee and my youngest. At my youngest of my interns in the summer, 16 years old. My oldest at 67. The average age of my employee is like 56 at this point. So at some point, I have about 80% of my employees leaving, whether they like it or not. They'll either be leaving work because they can't or because they retire. And so I have to fulfill a bunch of roles with a lot younger folks. Granted, I have a lot of good 26 to 35-year-olds that could fill great managerial positions. Project managers, supervisors, safety and quality control managers, warehouse managers, stuff like that. Even down to truck drivers, box truck, delivering materials. I have those, but I think it's because I retain them well. I don't think a lot of people have those. So I think other businesses might have that gap. I really just have to pay through the teeth to keep those people to make sure I don't lose that.
Yeah, I would just add, I would agree. I think there will be a gap. There is a gap. I'm really interested in this idea of mentoring. As more and more people are aging out and retiring from the workforce, I think there are opportunities to re-engage our community and to come back and mentor younger employees. At the same time, I think it is our responsibility, just like there's a gap in soft skills and the rest, to really look at, do you have opportunities for your employees to learn leadership skills while they're young, and are you really tapping and really on the shoulder and really looking at your next level of leaders in there and really thinking about what opportunities they have for them.
I would add that the education system is not immune to this issue either.
Right.
We also are facing a significant labor shortage coming up for this very reason, and we need more teachers. And we need teachers to become new principals, and principals to become new superintendents, and there is a pipeline issue in education as well.
Larry, you're not going anywhere.
Quick point, leadership is a learned skill. It takes a lot of time and effort to learn how to be a good leader. You have to have the opportunity to make many mistakes. People are staying in the workforce longer, and they are retaining positions of leadership, and that creates a backlog. When the top is full, so is the middle, and people have less of an opportunity to learn these basic skills. So I think one thing that organizations that are at a certain scale can do is to actually implement executive transition plans, turn that mentorship into a practice, help people start thinking about the legacy that they want to leave at an organization and how they want to exit and when it's the right time to exit. That should be a conversation, and that should solve some of the problems if you're able to do that well.
One barrier to aligning workforce with need is the pushing students to a 4-year degree. What can we be doing locally to counteract this?
Here you go.
I think I have this conversation every day. We've done a really good job in this country of helping people understand that they need college. But for some reason, for college seems to be 4 years. And you hear that over and over again. And yet when you look at the data and really see what the actual skill sets are for most of the college degrees, it's predominantly 1-year certificates, 2-year technical degrees. And so there's a real, I mean, these conversations a lot, almost a marketing needing to be done to help people understand what these jobs can pay and what the opportunities are. I tell you, we don't have as much of a problem attracting when we can get high school students or middle school students on our campus and see some of the really cool things they can make or do. It's getting their parents to really understand that this is a viable career. There's a whole generation, I think, where we've set that tone and said, go off and do this 4-year opportunity. And so, again, from my perspective, exposure early on, not just the student, but the family and the parents to really do that is part of one way to tackle it.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
What emphasis should be placed on business creation as opposed to just getting a job? Entrepreneurship.
I've done this a couple of times. It's extremely risky to do this. I think it gives you really good experience. I couldn't do my work without the experience I've had building, scaling, and then having companies fall apart around me. That is really valuable experience. I was lucky enough to be married to a surgical nurse. When things went badly for me, we had a stable income. Not everybody has this. That allowed me to fail more than most, right? And it's that failure that has allowed me to not make the mistakes again and to be a better business person in the long term and to know how to navigate startups, which are extremely prone to failure. We tend to idealize the idea of entrepreneurship and starting your own company, and I think there's a reason for that. It's a good thing to do. It's a worthy thing to do. It fits with our American civic ethos to go and do that thing. We need to know the risks of that. And on the flip side of this, Marcus was saying that, building isn't sexy. It doesn't need to be sexy, but maybe it needs to be noble again. I mean, when we talk about this civic ethos, we had it, and we don't have it in the same way anymore. We don't have that union pride that we used to have. We've turned all of these things into class-based and political tools of warfare that cause people to bribe colleges so their kids have a leg up. It's ridiculous. And so I think we need to have a larger conversation. What does it mean to be a worthy part of this society? And let's be inclusive about that, not in the way inclusivity has been politicized in our culture, but real inclusivity. Where's the nobility in the rural tough jobs? Let's find that, and at the same time, certainly allow people to strive and be entrepreneurs.
Are you wrapping this up? No. We do have a few more questions, and then I also have a couple more things to say. So we have time to answer some of these questions. Do you believe that there will be enough new jobs to replace the 50% of jobs that will be lost to automation? Pull out your crystal ball.
Yes, I do. And actually, this echoes on what you were just talking about. I think when we're talking about an educational experiential learning and really paying attention to helping kids develop themselves into makers and creators, you are creating from kindergarten on new entrepreneurs, kids who are willing to fail, try something new, learn from it, and grow, and really make their mark on the world. And I think if we are developing a system that supports kids all through their educational pathway, that really allows them to find their passion and to really become in touch with their own creative genius, we will make those jobs.
Find your passion. That's great. Did everybody in here, raise your hand if you found your passion? And if you haven't, we have an entire workforce system and talk about your future career.
I'm hiring, and I think everyone else in this room is.
It's a noble
Excellent. We have a lot of strategically placed workforce development specialists in the room to talk to you about that. Marcus, this question is for you. How significant is defining your culture as a business, and how does culture correlate with employee retention?
Culture is very important. We spend a lot of time. So I come from a family-run business. My father started it 22 years ago, and it has grown significantly, employees-wise, family-wise. But we have a family culture. Though we're a corporation, there's a family culture to us. We know that we have each other's backs, and we support each other. We're very personal with the thoughts and needs and the desires of our employees, as well as our coworkers and even our upper administration that's above me. We care about each other. And with that, we also try to give back to them as much as possible. It's the little things that don't cost a company that much money that means so much more to your employees. For example, how much is a turkey during Thanksgiving? It doesn't fit into someone's normal paycheck. So we like to give back during those times. Same thing with Christmas dinners, PC, I should say holiday dinners. It's around those times you take care of the people that take care of your business. And that's the most important thing. To me, not every employee is truly invested. It might be a day-to-day, and it might not be for them. They might not have found their passion with me or with Goris, but I do care about all of them and their person and their families and their living situation at home. It's the hi, how are you? And I know every single name of every employee, and I do every single review for the state of Oregon and Washington. It's those things, the investing into your own employees, and just like we need to invest into our youth and give them a leg up and show them that we do care, that will keep retention. Some folks will need to go somewhere for $1 more an hour. Maybe your benefits should be a little better. And if they are the best, then that person just isn't meant to fit with your company. But what I do personally is try to explain the benefits that employees receive while working with us. It's how much money that we pay out of pocket directly for their health care, offer them the ability to put on their significant other and their children, and dental and vision and life insurance and match 401k. When you hear about, oh, I'm going here because I'm getting $1 more, did you take into account the thousands of dollars that we're investing in you? So I think that's something that could help retention of employees as well, and also could help retention of students in the workplace. Let them know what there is out there that they could be offered. We don't really give them the opportunity to say, this is what we can do for you. And we would like to exchange that for loyalty and effort in the workplace. And that's what boils down to a good relationship is give and take. It's giving and receiving. So.
Excellent. I'm going to ask one more question, and then I have a few things to say before we let you go about your day. This is a loaded question, so whoever wants to take a stab at this, feel free. If the state raises revenues with some kind of business tax program, how can we ensure that a fair amount of the revenue is invested in workforce development, especially youth programs?
So I'll take it, and anyone else wants to do it too. So first I'll say I think we're a really good investment. We know that the money that you invest directly into Clackamas Community College students goes right back 4 times over to the economy. So we think your money's well worth it. As far as accountability, part of what we're trying to do, and this is statewide, community colleges have asked for $70 million, and we said that if we can get $70 million, that we're going to double the output of career and technical education in this state. So you can look and see exactly what you're getting for your money and see where that goes. And so I do understand that this revenue package is going to be difficult for many businesses, but I think it's really important for Clackamas County. I think it's important for our state that we invest and make sure that we've got workers coming out.
I would add to that think long term. That you're talking about making an investment. And so if your measurement is, I want to see exactly a today workforce investment benefit, I'm going to ask you to look down deeper. That starts having kids ready for kindergarten and the appropriate social and emotional learning supports for them to have a successful education trajectory. And that might not sound like workforce development to you, but it is. It absolutely is, because that means more of our kids are going to succeed going through the system, graduating from that system, and being able to head into that career and technical educational step that they need to be a part of the workforce.
And in addition to tax dollars, is it true, shameless plug, that every school district and the community college has a foundation that if you are looking to donate or contribute to after-school programs or early learning programs or other programs that might be of support, and Clackamas Workforce Partnership is also a nonprofit, that there are opportunities to give in other ways?
Yes.
Yes. So Estacada School District, North Clackamas School District, Gladstone School District, Oregon City School District, and all of the other 6 school districts in this county and the community college all have foundations. Okay.
We're happy to help.
Yes, yes. So one more round of applause for our fantastic panel members. So just a few more things. On your table, you have cards that you can fill out that says how to engage in Clackamas Connected Careers. And what this is it's an initiative. It is new. So we're going to work out the bugs, and we're going to do it in partnership, because that's the only way that we know how to do things. Is that we need, one of the questions was, what constraints are holding back high school students, internships, and extending job shadowing? And I think some of it is just helping with coordination. Businesses and community partners need a place to plug in so that they can tap into the 10 school districts. If Marcus had to connect with all 10 school districts with changing staff or expectations, that could be a challenge for him to really navigate all those relationships. So what we want to do is we want to centralize that a little bit, or a lot of it, so that there is a place to plug in, and that a business who wants to engage with all 10 school districts has a more single place to be able to do that if they're open to entertaining an internship. And this summer, we'll be hosting at minimum 50 internships across the county. So if you're interested in taking on one of those youth interns, there's some information on the flyer at your table. Next year, we'll really be digging into calendaring. What are those events, job shadows? How can we help the Aspire program, Connected Careers, Oregon Tech? Really, we don't want to fix a part of the problem, community. We want to fix the whole thing, right? In 2 years, if we come back here and have a similar conversation, will it look different? So I want you to offer yourself and your time. This is a call to action. If not now, when? So now's the time. That's my ask of you. And I want to encourage all of you to share it with your peers, your partners, other community members, because at the end of the day, it still takes a village to raise a child. And so we need an all hands on deck approach, because automation and technology is not slowing down for us. So we need to catch up. I also just want to say thank you again one more time for all of your attention and your great questions. Oh my goodness. And Oregon City Business Alliance and the Chambers for hosting this conversation today. Thank you so much. And that is all. Thank you.